In continuation of Chapter 5, Mrs. Lorimer answered coldly, "I have no objection to answering that, if it bears upon the matter at issue in any way, though I fail to see how it can. I will be the judge of that. Your answer, if you please, madame." In the tone of a patient adult humouring an idiot child, Mrs. Lorimer replied, "Major Despard is a good sound player. Dr. Roberts overcalls, but his hand plays out brilliantly. Miss Meredith is quite a nice little player, but a bit too cautious. Anything more?" In his turn, doing a conjuring trick, Poirot produced 4 crumpled bridge scores. "These scores, madame. Is one of these yours?" She examined them. "This is my writing. It is the score of the third rubber. And this score? That must be Major Despard's. He cancels as he goes. And this one? Miss Meredith's, the first rubber. So this is the unfinished one, and this is Dr. Roberts." "Yes. Thank you, madame. I think that is all." Mrs. Lorimer turned to Mrs. Oliver. "Good night, Mrs. Oliver. Good night, Colonel Race." Then, having shaken hands with all 4 of them, she went out. Chapter 6. "Didn't get any extra change out of her," commented Battle. "Put me in my place too. She's the old-fashioned kind, full of consideration for others, but arrogant as the devil. I can't believe she did it, but you never know. She's got plenty of resolution. What's the idea of the bridge course, Monsieur Poirot?" Poirot spread out them on the table. "They are illuminating, don't you think? What do we want in this case? A clue to character. And a clue not to one character, but to 4 characters. And this is where we are most likely to find it, in these scribbled figures. Here is the first rubber, you see, a tame business, soon over. Small neat figures, careful addition and subtraction. Miss Meredith scores. She was playing with Mrs. Lorimer. They had the cards, and they won. In this next one, it is not so easy to follow the play, since it is kept in the cancellation style, but it tells us perhaps something about Major Despard, a man who likes the whole time to know at a glance where he stands. The figures are small and full of character. The next score is Mrs. Lorimer's, she and Dr. Roberts against the other 2. A Homeric combat, figures mounting up above the line each other, overcalling on the doctor's part, and they go down. But since they are both first-class players, they never go down very much. If the doctor's overcalling induces rash bidding on the other side, there is the chance seized of doubling. See, these figures here are double tricks gone down. A characteristic handwriting, graceful, very legible, and firm. Here is the last score, the unfinished rubber. I collected 1 score in each person's handwriting, you see. Figures rather flamboyant, not such high scores as the preceding rubber. That is probably because the doctor was playing with Miss Meredith and she is a timid player. His calling would make her more so. You think perhaps that they are foolish? These questions that I ask, but it is not so. I want to get at these characters of these 4 players, and when it is only about bridge, I ask, everyone is ready and willing to speak. "I never think of your questions as foolish, Mr. Poirot," said Battle. "I have seen too much of your work. Everyone's got their own way of working. I know that. I give my inspectors a free hand always. Everyone's got to find out for themselves what method suits them the best. But we'd better not discuss that now. We'll have the girl in." Anne Meredith was upset. She stopped in the doorway. Her breath came unevenly. Superintendent Battle was immediately fatherly. He rose, set a chair for her at a slightly different angle. "Sit down, Miss Meredith. Sit down. Now, don't be alarmed. I know all this seems rather dreadful, but it's not so bad, really." "I don't think anything could be worse," said the girl in a low voice. "It's so awful. So awful to think that one of us. You let me do the thinking, said Battle kindly. Now then, Miss Meredith, suppose we have your address first of all. Wendon Cottage, Wallingford. No address in town? No, I'm staying at my club for a day or two. And your club is? Ladies Naval and Military. Good. Now then, Miss Meredith, how well did you know Mr. Shaitana? I didn't know him well at all. I always thought he was a most frightening man. Why? Oh, well, he was. That awful smile and the way he had of bending over you, and as thought he might bite you. Had you known him long? About 9 months. I met him in Switzerland during the winter sports. I should never have thought he went in for winter sports, said Battle surprised. He only skated. He was a marvelous skater, lots of figures and tricks. Yes, that sounds like him. And did you see much of him after that? Well, a fair amount. He asked me to parties and things like that. They were rather fun. But you didn't like him himself. No, I thought he was a shivery kind of man. Battle said gently. But you'd no special reason for being afraid of him. And Meredith raised wide, limpid eyes to his. Special reason? Oh, no. That's all right then. Now, about tonight, did you leave your seat at all? I don't think so. She coughed a little. Oh, yes, I may have done once. I went around to look at the others' hands. But you stayed by the bridge table all the time. Yes. Quite sure, Miss Meredith? The girl's cheeks flamed suddenly. No, I think I walked about. Right, you'll excuse me, Miss Meredith, but try and speak the truth. I know you're nervous, and when one's nervous, one's apt to, well, to say the thing the way you want it to be. But that doesn't really pay in the end. You walked about. Did you walk over in the direction of Mr. Shaitana? The girl was silent for a minute. Then she said, Honestly, honestly, I don't remember. Well, we'll leave it that you may have done. Know anything about the other three? The girl shook her head. I'd never seen any of them before. What do you think of them? Any likely murderers among them? I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. It couldn't be Major Despard, and I don't believe it could be the doctor. After all, a doctor could kill anyone in much easier ways. A drug, something like that. Then, if it's anyone, you think it's Mrs. Lorimer? Oh, I don't. I'm sure she wouldn't. She's so charming and so kind to play bridge with. She's so good herself, and yet she doesn't make one feel nervous or point out one's mistakes. Yet you left her name to the last, said Battle. Only because stabbing seems somehow more like a woman. Battle did his conjuring trick, and Meredith shrank back. Oh, horrible. Must I take it? I'd rather you did. He watched her as she took the stiletto gingerly, her face contracted with repulsion. With this tiny thing? With this? It goes in like butter, said Battle with gusto. A child could do it. You mean, wide, terrified eyes fixed themselves on his face, that I might have done it? But I didn't. I didn't. Why should I? That's just the question we'd like to know, said Battle. What's the motive? Why did anyone want to kill Shaitana? He was a picturesque person, but he wasn't dangerous as far as I can make out. Was there a slight indrawing of breath? Sudden lifting of a breast? Not a blackmailer, for instance, or anything of that sort, I thought Battle. And anyway, Miss Meredith, you don't look the sort of girl who's got a lot of guilty secrets. For the first time she smiled, reassured by his geniality. No, indeed, I haven't. I haven't got any secrets at all. Then don't worry, Miss Meredith. We shall have come around and ask you a few more questions. I expect, but it will be a matter of routine. He got up. Now you go off. My constable will get you a taxi. Don't you lie awake or horrifying yourself. Take a couple of aspirins. He ushered her out. As he came back, Colonel Race said in a low, amused voice, Battle, what a really accomplished liar you are. Your fatherly air was unsurpassed. No good dallying about with her, Colonel Race. Either the poor kid is dead scared, in which case it's cruelty and I'm not a cruel man. I never have been, or she is slightly accomplished little actress. And we shouldn't get any further if we are to keep her here half of the night. Mrs. Oliver gave a sigh and ran her hand freely through her fringe until it stood upright and gave her a wholly drunken appearance. Do you know, she said, I rather believe now that she did it. It's lucky it's not in a book. They don't really like the young and beautiful girl to have done it. All the same, I rather think she did. What do you think, Monsieur Poirot? Me? I have just made a discovery. In your bridge scores again? Yes. Miss Anne Meredith turns her score over, draws line, and uses the back. And what does that mean? It means she has the habit of poverty or else is of a naturally economical turn of mind. She's expensively dressed, said Mrs. Oliver. Send in Major Despard, said Superintendent Battle. Chapter 7. Despard entered the room with a quick springing step, a step that reminded Poirot of something or someone. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting all this while, Major Despard, said Battle, but I wanted to let the ladies get away as soon as possible. Don't apologize, I understand. He sat down and looked enquiringly at the superintendent. How well did you know Mr. Shaitana? Began the latter. I've met him twice, said Despard crisply. Only twice? That's all. On what occasions? About a month ago we were both dining at the same house. Then he asked me to a cocktail party a week later. A cocktail party here? Yes. Where did it take place? This room or the drawing room? In all the rooms. See this little thing lying about? Battle once more produced the stiletto. Major Despard's lips twisted slightly. No, he said. I didn't mark it down on that occasion for future use. There's no need to go ahead of what I say, Major Despard. I beg your pardon. The inference was fairly obvious. There was a moment's pause, then Battle resumed his enquiries. Have you any motive for disliking Mr. Shaitana? Every motive. Huh? Superintendent sounded startled. For disliking him, not for killing him, said Despard. I hadn't the least wish to kill him, but I would thoroughly have enjoyed kicking him. Pity it's too late now. Why did you want to kick him, Major Despard? Because he was the sort of dago who needed kicking badly. He used to make the toe of my boot fairly itch. Know anything about him to discredit him, I mean? He was too well dressed, he wore his hair too long, and he smelt of scent. Yet you accepted the invitation to dinner, Battle pointed out. If I were only to dine in-house where I thoroughly approved of my host, I'm afraid I shouldn't dine out very much, Superintendent Battle, said Despard dryly. You like society, but you don't approve of it, suggested the other. I like it for very short periods, to come back from the wilds to lighted rooms and women in lovely clothes, to dancing and good food and laughter. Yes, I enjoy that for a time. But then the insincerity of all sickens me. I want to be off again. It must be a dangerous sort of life you lead, Major Despard, wandering about in these wild places. Despard shrugged his shoulders. He smiled slightly. Mr. Shaitana didn't lead a dangerous life. But he is dead. I am alive. He may have led a more dangerous life than you think, said Battle meaningly. What do you mean? The late Mr. Shaitana was a bit of a nosy Parker, said Battle. The other leaned forward. You mean that he meddled with other people's lives? That he discovered what? I really meant that perhaps he was the sort of man who meddled with women. Major Despard leant back in his chair. He laughed, an amused but indifferent laugh. I don't think women would take a mountebank like that seriously. What's your theory of who killed him, Major Despard? Well, I know I didn't. Little Miss Meredith didn't. I can't imagine Mrs. Lorimer doing so. She reminds me of my more God fearing aunts. That leaves the medical gentleman. Can you describe your own and other people's movements this evening? I got up twice, once for an ashtray, and I also poked the fire, and once for a drink. At what times? I couldn't say. First time might have been about 10:30, the second time 11. But that's pure guesswork. Mrs. Lorimer went over to the fire once and said something to Shaitana. I didn't hear him answer, but then I wasn't paying attention. I couldn't swear he didn't. Miss Meredith wandered about the room a bit, but I don't think she went over near the fireplace. Roberts was always jumping up and down, 3 or 4 times at least. I'll ask you Monsieur Poirot's question, said Battle with a smile. What did you think of them as bridge players? Miss Meredith is quite a good player. Roberts overcalls his hand disgracefully. He deserves to go down more than he does. Mrs. Lorimer's damn good. Battle turned to Poirot. Anything else, Monsieur Poirot? Poirot shook his head. Despard gave his address as the Albany, wished them good night, and left the room. As he closed the door behind him, Poirot made a slight movement. What is it? Nothing. It just occurred to me that he walked like a tiger. Yes, just so. Light, easy. Does tiger move along? Said Battle. Now then, his eyes glanced around at his three companions. Which of them did it? Chapter 8. Battle looked from one face to another. Only one person answered his question. Mrs. Oliver, never averse to giving her views, rushed into speech. The girl or the doctor, she said. Battle looked questioningly at the other two, but both the men were unwilling to make a pronouncement. Race shook his head. Poirot carefully smoothed his crumpled bridge coats. One of them did it, said Battle musingly. One of them's lying like hell, but which? It's not easy. No, it's not easy. He was silent for a minute or two. Then he said, if you're to go by what they say, the medico thinks Despard did it, Despard thinks the medico did it. The girl thinks Mrs. Lorimer did it, and Mrs. Lorimer won't say. Nothing very illuminating there. Perhaps not, said Poirot. Battle shot him a quick glance. You think there is? Poirot waved an airy hand. A nuance, nothing more, nothing to go upon. Battle continued. You two gentlemen won't say what you think. No evidence, said Race curtly. Oh, you men, sighed Mrs. Oliver, despising such retenance. Let's look at the rough possibilities, said Battle. He considered a minute. I put the doctor first. I think, specious sort of customer. Would know the right spot to shove the dagger in, but there's not much more than that to it. Then take Despard. There's a man with an amount of nerve. A man accustomed to make quick decisions, and a man who's quite at home doing dangerous things. Mrs. Lorimer, she's got any amount of nerve too, and she's the sort of woman who might have a secret in her life. She looks as though she's known trouble. On the other hand, I'd say she's what I call a highly principled woman. Sort of woman who might be headmistress of a girls' school. It isn't easy to think of her sticking a knife into anyone. In fact, I don't think she did. And lastly, there's little Miss Meredith. We don't know anything about her. She seems an ordinary, good-looking, rather shy girl. But one doesn't know, as I say, anything about her. We know that Shaitana believed she had committed murder. The angelic face masking the demon, mused Mrs. Oliver. This getting us anywhere, Battle? Asked Colonel Race. Unprofitable speculation, you think, sir? Well, there's bound to be speculation in cases like this. Isn't it better to find out about these people? Battle smiled. Oh, we shall be hard at work on that. I think you could help us there. Certainly. How? As regards Major Despard, he's been abroad a lot in South America, East Africa, South Africa. You've means of knowing those parts. You could get information about him. Race nodded. It shall be done. I'll get all the available data. Oh, cried Mrs. Oliver, I've got a plan. There are four of us, four sleuths, as you might say, and four of them. How would it be if we each took one, backed our fancy? Colonel Race takes Major Despard, Superintendent Battle takes Dr. Roberts, I'll take Aunt Meredith, and Mrs. Lorimer is Monsieur Poirot's. Each of us to follow our own line. Superintendent Battle shook his head decisively. Couldn't quite do that, Mrs. Oliver. This is official, you see. I'm in charge. I've got to investigate all lines. Besides, it's all very well to say back your fancy. Two of us might want to back the same horse. Colonel Race hasn't said he suspected Major Despard, and Monsieur Poirot ain't putting his money on Mrs. Lorimer. Mrs. Oliver sighed. It was such a good plan, she sighed regretfully. So neat. Then she cheered up a little. But you don't mind me doing a little investigating of my own, do you? No, said Superintendent Battle slowly. I can't say I object to that. In fact, it's out of my power to object. Having been at this party tonight, you're naturally free to do anything if your own curiosity or interest suggests. But I'd like to point to you, Mrs. Oliver, that you'd better be a little careful. Discretion itself, said Mrs. Oliver. I shan't breathe a word of anything, she ended a little lamely. I don't think that was quite Superintendent Battle's meaning, said Hercule Poirot. He meant that you will be dealing with a person who has already, to the best of our belief, killed twice. A person, therefore, who will not hesitate to kill a third time, if he considers it necessary. Miss Oliver looked at him thoughtfully. Then she smiled, an agreeable, engaging smile, rather like that of an impudent small child. You have been warned, she quoted. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. I'll watch my step. But I'm not going to be out of this. Poirot bowed gracefully. Permit me to say, you are the sport, madame. I presume, said Mrs. Oliver, sitting up very straight and speaking in a business-like committee meeting manner, that all information we receive will be pooled. That is, we will not keep any knowledge to ourselves. Our own deductions and impressions, of course, we are entitled to keep to ourselves. Superintendent Battle sighed. This isn't a detective story, Mrs. Oliver, he said. Race said, naturally all information must be handed over to the police. Having said this in his most orderly room voice, he added with a slight twinkle in his eye, I'm sure you'll play fair, Mrs. Oliver. The stained glove, the fingerprint on the tooth glass, the fragment of burnt paper, you'll turn them over to Battle here. You may laugh, said Mrs. Oliver, but a woman's intuition. She nodded her head with decision. Race rose to his feet. I'll have Despard looked up for you. It may take a little time. Anything else I can do? I don't think so. Thank you, sir. You have no hints? I'd value anything of that kind. Well, I'd keep a special lookout for shooting or poisons or accidents, but I expect you're on that already. I'd made a note of that, yes, sir. Good man, Battle. You don't need me to teach you your job. Good night, Mrs. Oliver. Good night, Monsieur Poirot. And with that final nod to Battle, Colonel Race left the room. Who is he? Asked Mrs. Oliver. Very fine army record, said Battle. Travelled a lot too, not many parts of the world he doesn't know about. Secret Service, I suppose. You can't tell me so, I know. But you wouldn't have been asked otherwise this evening. The four murderers and the four sleuths, Scotland Yard, Secret Service's private fiction. A clever idea. Poirot shook his head. You are in error, madame. It was a very stupid idea. The tiger was alarmed, and the tiger sprang. The tiger? Why the tiger? By the tiger, I mean the murderer, said Poirot. Battle said bluntly. What's your idea of the right line to take, Monsieur Poirot? That's one question, and I'd also like to know what you think of the psychology of these four people. You're rather hot on that. Still smoothing his bridge scores, Poirot said, You are right. Psychology is very important. We know the kind of murder that has been committed and the way it was committed. If you have a person whom, from the psychological point of view, could not have committed that particular type of murder, then we can dismiss that person from our calculations. We know something about these people. We have our own impression on them. We know the line that each has elected to take. And we know something about their minds and their characters from what we have learned about them as card players and from the study of their handwriting and of these scores. But, alas, it is not too easy to give a definite pronouncement. This murder required audacity and nerve. A person who was willing to take a risk. Well, we have Dr. Roberts, a bluffer, an overcaller of his hand, a man with complete confidence in his powers to pull off a risky thing. His psychology fits very well with the crime. One might say then that automatically wipes out Miss Meredith. She is timid, frightened of overcalling her hand, careful, economical, prudent, and lacking in self-confidence. The last type of person to carry out a bold, risky coup. But a timid person will murder out of fear. A frightened, nervous person can be made desperate, can turn like a rat at bay if driven into a corner. If Miss Meredith had committed a crime in her past, and if she believed that Mr. Shaitana knew about the circumstance of that crime and was about to deliver her up to justice, she would be wild with terror. She would stick at nothing to save herself. It would be the same result, though brought about through a different reaction. Not cool nerve and daring, but desperate panic. Then take Major Despard, a cool, resourceful man willing to try a long shot if he believed it absolutely necessary. He would weigh the pros and cons and might decide that there was a sporting chance in his favor. And he is the type of man to prefer action to inaction, and a man who would never shrink from the taking of a dangerous way if he believed there was a reasonable chance of success. Finally, there is Mrs. Lorimer, an elderly woman, but a woman in full possession of her wits and faculties. A cool woman, a woman with the mathematical brain. She has, I confess, an expected to be premeditated crime. I can see her planning a climb slowly and carefully, making sure that there are no flaws in her scheme. For that reason, she seems to me slightly more unlikely than the other three. She is, however, the most dominating personality, and whatever she undertook, she would probably carry through without a flaw. She is a thoroughly efficient woman. He paused. So, you see, that does not help us much, no. There is only one way in this crime. We must go back into the past. Battle sighed. You've said it, he murmured. In the opinion of Mr. Shaitana, each of those four people had committed murder. Had he evidence, or was it a guess? We cannot tell. It is unlikely, I think, that he could have had actual evidence in all four cases. I agree with you there, said Battle, nodding his head. That would be a bit too much of a coincidence. I suggest that it might come out this way. Murder or a certain form of murder is mentioned, and Mr. Shaitana surprised the look on someone's face. He was very quick, very sensitive to expression. It amuses him to experiment, to probe gently in the course of apparently aimless conversation. He's alert to notice a wince, a reservation, a desire to turn the conversation. Oh, it is easily done. If you suspect a certain secret, nothing is easier than to confirm your suspicion. Every time a word goes home, you notice it. If you are watching for such a thing, it's the sort of game he would have assumed an hour late, friend, said Battle, nodding. We may assume then that such was the procedure in one or more cases. May have come across a piece of actual evidence in another case and followed it up. I doubt whether in any of the cases he had sufficient actual knowledge with which, for instance, to have gone to the police. Or it may not have been that kind of case, said Battle. Often enough, there's a fishy business. We suspect foul play, but we can't prove it. Anyway, the course is clear. We've got to go through the records of all these people and note any deaths that may be significant. I expect you noticed, just as Colonel did, what Mr. Shaitana said at dinner. The Black Angel, murmured Mrs. Oliver. A neat little reference to poison, to accident, to a doctor's opportunities, shooting accidents. I shouldn't be surprised if he signed his death warrant when he said those words. It was a nasty sort of pause, said Mrs. Oliver. Yes, said Poirot. Those words went home to one person at least. That person probably thought that Shaitana knew far more than he really did. That listener thought that they were the prelude to the end, that the party was a dramatic entertainment arranged by Shaitana leading up for the arrest of murder at its climax. Yes, as you say, he signed his death warrant the moment he said those words. There was a moment's silence. This will be a long business, said Battle with a sigh. We can't find out all we want in a moment, and we've got to be careful. We don't want any of the four suspects to know what we are doing. All our questioning and so on must seem to have to do with this murder. There mustn't be suspicion that we've got any idea of the motive for the crime. And the devil of it is, we've got to check up on four of the possible murderers in the past. Not one. Poirot demurred. Our friend, Mr. Shaitana, was not infallible, he said. He may, it is just possible, have made a mistake. About all four? No, he was way more intelligent than that. Call it 50-50. And not even that for me. I say 1 in 4. 1 innocent and 3 guilty. That's bad enough. And the devil of it is, even if we get at the truth, it may not help us. Even if somebody did push their great aunt down the stairs in 1912, it won't much use to us in 1937. Poirot coughed a little. Yes, it will be of use to us, Poirot encouraged him. You know that. You know it as well as I do. Battle nodded slowly. I know what you mean. Same hallmark. Do you mean, said Mrs. Oliver, that the former victim will have been stabbed with a dagger too? Not quite as crude as that, Mrs. Oliver, said Battle, turning to her. But I don't doubt it will be essentially the same type of crime. The details may be different, but the essentials underlying them will be the same. It's odd, but a criminal gives himself away every time by that. Man is an unoriginal animal, said Hercule Poirot. Women, said Miss Oliver, are capable of infinite variation. I should never commit the same type of murder twice running. Don't you ever write the same plot twice running? Asked Battle. The Lotus murder, murmured Poirot. The clue of the candle wax. Mrs. Oliver turned on him, her eyes beaming appreciation. That's clever of you, that's really clever of you, because of course, those two are exactly the same plot, but nobody else has seen it. One is stolen papers at an informal weekend party of the cabinet, and the other is a murder in Borneo in a rubber planter's bungalow. But the essential point on which the story turns is the same. One of your neatest tricks. The rubber planter arranges his own murder. The cabinet minister arranges the robbery of his own papers. Last minute, the third person steps in and turns deception into reality. I enjoyed your last, Mrs. Oliver, said Superintendent Battle kindly. The one where all the chief constables were shot simultaneously. You just slipped up once or twice on official details. I know you're keen on accuracy, so I wondered if. As a matter of fact, I don't care two pins about accuracy, she said. Nobody nowadays does. If a reporter writes that a beautiful girl of 22 dies by turning on the gas after looking out over the sea and kissing her favorite Labrador, Bob, goodbye. Does anybody make a fuss because the girl was 26, the room faced inland, and the dog was a Sealyham Terrier called Bonnie? If a journalist can do that sort of thing, I don't see that it matters if I can mix up police ranks and say revolver when I mean an automatic, and a dictograph when I mean a phonograph, and use poison that just allows you to gasp one dying sentence and no more. What really matters is plenty of bodies. If the thing's getting a little dull, some more blood cheers it up. Somebody is going to tell something and then they're killed first. That always goes down well. It comes in all my books, camouflaged different ways, of course, and people like untraceable poisons. An idiotic police inspector and girls tied up in cellars with sewer gas or water pouring. In a hero can dispose of anything from 3 to 2 to 7 villains single handed. I've written 32 books by now, and of course, they're all exactly the same, really, as Monsieur Poirot seems to have noticed. But nobody else has. And I only regret one thing, making my detective a Finn. I don't really know anything about Finns, and I'm always getting letters from Finland pointing out something impossible that he said or did. They seem to read detective stories a good deal in Finland. I suppose it's the long winters with no daylight. In Bulgaria and Romania, they don't seem to read at all. I'd have done better to have made him a burglar. She broke off. I'm so sorry, I'm talking shop. And this is a real murder. Her face lit up. What a good idea it would be if none of them had murdered. If he'd asked them all and then quietly committed suicide just for the fun of making a schmozzle. Poirot nodded approvingly. An admirable solution. So neat, so ironic. But alas, Mr. Shaitana was not that sort of man. He was very fond of life. I don't think he was a really nice man, said Mrs. Oliver slowly. He was not nice, no, said Poirot. But he was alive, and now he is dead. As I told him once, I have an attitude to murder. I disapprove of it. And he added softly, and so I'm prepared to go inside the tiger's cage. Hello everyone, this is Suryanshu. If you enjoyed this audiobook, do consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like. It really helps. And do turn on the notification to get notified when I post new videos. So stay tuned for the next audiobook, and goodbye until next time.